Thank you, David. We were able to work with many of them, and we're sharing one story of a girl who we saw them 12 years after the genocide. And this girl was 3 years old at the time of the genocide. When we saw her, she was 15, and she was very depressed, very traumatized still, 12 years after the genocide. She was still having what they call daymares, the flashbacks, every day, and nightmares every day for 12 years. And because of that, it was not possible to learn, to be able to study or concentrate. And she could not remember anything of her family prior to the genocide. So you could see where the working through the grief had been stopped because she keeps having. What was happening is that in her little village, they had taken refuge inside the Catholic Church to be safe. But they started coming in and killing people inside the church. Her father, who was a very mild-mannered, quiet gentleman, saw that what was happening and told his little girl and others, run as fast as you can and get outside of the church, because they would all be slaughtered in the church. And he told this little 3-year-old, no matter what happens, just keep running, don't look back. So she's trying to run. She's only 3, so she's trying to run as fast as she can. And she hears, there's a lot of screaming, but she hears distinctly her father's voice. And her father is a very mild-mannered person, but he's yelling and screaming like a crazy person. So she said, I even remembered, he said, no matter what happens, don't look back, just keep running. However, she's only 3, and she hears her father's voice like a crazy person. So she turned to look right at the wrong time, because she saw her father being slaughtered with the machetes by several people. And another little boy, who was a few years older, because she's looking, he grabbed her hand and pulled her and said, let's keep running. So they keep running. They got outside the church and then realized that they're slaughtering people outside the church as well. And this boy that was a few years older grabbed her hand and said, let's hide in the bushes, because he knew they're little kids. They cannot run fast. They will be killed. So they hid in the bushes. And of course, witnessed from the bushes the rest of the people being slaughtered. And so as what was happening was she started talking about what she had been seeing every day for 12 years was the nightmares and the flashbacks of her father being killed. And that was such a sharp memory. She could see every detail, even 12 years later. So we worked through that, and she was crying. She was very depressed. She looked like this, and she's 15 years old, but she looked even shorter than I am, because she was like this. And then after she was working through the trauma of her father's death, she started smiling, and she said, I actually can remember some memories. And so we're looking at, then she started looking happier. So I looked at her and said, And now when you think about what happened that day, what comes up for you? And of course, they were seeing her mother killed. We work on that. And then she saw some of her siblings and others in her village being killed. And so we worked through all the memories of what had happened inside the church and then what happened outside the church, and seeing all the people being killed. And after we worked through all of those, and I asked her, and now what comes up for you when you think about that day? She said, I can still remember it, but now it feels like 12 years ago. And as we were working through these traumas, when she started being able to access the memories from her childhood, so she remembered playing with her brothers and sisters, and then when she was recalling these memories, she started laughing, which startled my interpreter and myself, because he's a pastor, and she's laughing and talking about the memories now that she could access. And she said that she remembered her father was actually maybe a little bit of a rascal, because mother didn't want them to eat these sweet fruits because they're bad for the teeth. They didn't even have toothbrushes and things. So he would hide them in his pockets. And when mother wasn't looking, he would sneak it to the children. So she was laughing about that. And this is where, we look at the help in healing the trauma and how it can help to then work through the grief. And when we saw her the next day, she looked like she was taller than I am, because she was now standing up straight, smiling. She looked like a very different person. She was alert, smiling. And these children actually were able to study and learn after this. And I don't know if you want me to say, about 1 year after they were treated, they were able to learn enough to pass the competitive Rwandan exams and get into the regular public schools after not being able to read and write and learn because of the flashbacks and the traumas and the nightmares, so they were not able to focus. So thank you very much. Thank you, David.
Yeah, I just want to say that when we hugged, she felt taller than me.